what's up friends, you got Gypsy back here today for NPL Playoffs Round 1. I'm going up against Sebastian, aka TopTierBoy, my good friend, a very good friend, and yeah, this is gonna be a tight one because TopTierBoy is a very good player, and he's a really good mate of mine, and so he understands sort of, he's got a lot of insight into how I build and play, and yeah, my man Seb has drafted like definitely one of the best teams in the league. I think his team is like, I'd say definitely top 3 in terms of like defensive synergy, offensive prowess, just like speed, breakers, momentum. Like it's just a really solid team. Whereas I feel as though my team is definitely not in the top 5 in terms of the best teams, and that is purely on the way I drafted. That comes back to poor drafting on my part. Perhaps questionable trading choices, but that's all fine. This is not a team I'm really super comfortable with this season, but that's just it's all valuable lessons for the future. As we're gonna jump into the team that we're bringing today. As I mentioned, Seb has a really threatening team. His breakers like Zygarde and Volcarona put enormous pressure on my defensive core. Volcarona can really like effectively sweep me if I don't bring the correct checks to it. Zygarde is a massive threat. My only real like switch in is Shaman, and if he makes the appropriate doubles or predicts and goes like outrage on the switch, I'm forced to switch out if I've taken rocks damage. So if he's like a banded variant, that is definitely threatening. He has the Stoutland, as you can see, so he's got like a nice sand core with Tyranitar and Stoutland. But he also had a lot of threats on his team that he didn't bring that I obviously had to prepare for. So stuff that he didn't bring, he also had Raikou, which is a big threat. Carmine variant is a big threat to my team. Outspeeding my entire team, Bartok Trio. He had Reuniclus, which was something I was actually quite concerned about. Reuniclus has really amazing balance breaking prowess. Being able to like, be the Trick Room Life Orb variant or even just the Carmine variant is quite annoying to face. And had I not brought Muck, had I brought like perhaps like an offensive team, I could have been really vulnerable to Trick Room Reuniclus. So that was definitely something I wanted to avoid. As well as Magnezone can, not the best one in this matchup, but something like a Specs Magnezone can hit my team extremely hard, and I don't really have the best responses for it, switch-ins wise. He also had Amoonguss in the back, which is a pretty frustrating thing for my team to handle, so I did have to prep around that. So going to the team that I have brought today, we have a relatively bulky Mega Gardevoir, rocking Carmine, Wish, Psyshock, and Hyper Voice, so enough speed to creep his Finny. I didn't think he'd be running a Jolly Gliscor if he did bring it. Gliscor is also a fantastic stop to mons on my team, such as Physical Infernape, Physical Scolipede lacking, Aquatel. It's a really solid mon, to be honest, in this matchup, as I'm quite ground weak. My ground resist is pressured by Zygarde, so that was definitely something I had to account for. But I didn't feel like he'd bring a Jolly, really fast Gliscor. I felt if anything it would be defensive. So the speed of my guard is appropriate for a max speed Tapu Fini. So this guard is really solid. Like, my team appreciates the Wish support, as you're gonna see as we get into the match. But yeah, it can be a win con. Obviously, he does have like Volcarona and Mega Sizzle, who are quite annoying for it. Seb did bring a max defensive Volcarona to our previous game, our like meme game. So that was definitely something that could come. It could be like a cool check to my Mega Gardevoir if he decided to bring it, as he has brought it there. So that could be the case for his Volcarona. But the next one on my team is obligatory defensive Shaman. Pretty necessary in this matchup, as I mentioned earlier. Checks stuff like Zygarde, checks Tita, can check Stoutland in conjunction with Toxapex. Leech Seed is pretty nice versus him. If you look at his team, he didn't bring the Amoonguss, so he has no switch-ins to Leech Seed. My mons do appreciate the passive recovery that Leech Seed brings, so that is kind of nice team support in that sense. But then we have a nice Mark, kind of nice, like it's an offensive Mark. It's a Gluttony Figgyberry set, which means that if he does bring a Reuniclus, this is basically a really solid hard check to it. If I get a curse up, I can take a banded Earthquake from Zygarde. I can knock it off. I can Oko it with knockoff after a +1 from curse. I can also take a banded Stone Edge or banded Earthquake from Tyranitar and knock him out with Brick Break. So this is a pretty, like, it's not the best one in this matchup, but it was definitely necessary if I did, end up facing some sort of Reuniclus that my guard couldn't take on. Because if you look at my team, Reuniclus, if it's like a Carmine Psyshock set, it just blows through my team. Like, I don't have like Taunt or Encore on guard this week. I do have Carmine, but Carmine Shadowball, if he's like a really fat Reuniclus, he can beat me down with that. So then we have a Assault Vest Gudra, pretty funky spread this week on this Gudra. I'm not gonna bring it up, but it's enough speed for like a slow Mega Scizor. I've got Flamethrower for Scizor, Ice Beam for Gliscor, EQ for stuff like Magnezone, Raikou, hits Tyranitar like the strongest I can. I could run Power Whip, but I'm running Rock Slide in my last move instead to ensure that I can take on Volcarona, because Volcarona is a massive threat. So this Gudra set is basically one of my best checks to Volcarona. You may look at my team and think, well wait, you have Toxapex, what are you worried about? Like, you have Infernape. Volcarona gets Psychic, and Shattered Psy Strike was definitely something I was expecting. It was a Z move that could Oko Toxapex, like, doesn't even need to be a +1, he could just Oko me depending on the roll, which is crazy. Obviously deals with Infernape, so having my Spidef AV Gudra in the back is really solid. It does also help me, take out a weakened Gliscor and Scizor as well. So then we have Infernape. It's a pretty interesting Stealth Rock set this week. Stealth Rock max attack, Mach Punch for stuff like a weakened Zygarde. Tyranitar doesn't want to take a Mach Punch. Mach Punch is also nice for his Sand offense, so Stoutland. We have Flare Blitz obviously versus his team. Then we have Gunk Shot with the Z Poison. So this is going to allow us to take out a weakened Finny, or even like an offensive Finny from full if he is offensive. This is going to really help me keep my Stealth Rock's pressure up. So if I can get Infernape in at some point in the game after I've determined his Finny set, maybe I've chipped him down a little bit, I can take him out with the Z Gunk Shot. So my last one is my physically defensive Rocky Helmet Toxapex. This is like the best check in the game to Scizor. Up there with Zapdos and stuff. Like, this thing is just amazing. It just hard counters Scizor. I do have Haze if he wants to, get wise and start boosting up. It also helps versus a Volcarona if he's for some reason not like Psychic on Volcarona. So I do have T-Spikes on this set. If you look at his team, he is really, really pressured by T-Spikes. He does have the defog on Tapu Fini or potentially Mega Scizor, but if he doesn't get in before I set up the spikes, then his Finny is going to be taking the poison damage. So that's going to be definitely important for my, for stuff like Infernape, Skunk Shot late game. And yeah, like the majority of his mons, like 5 out of 6 mons, get affected by T-Spikes. So if I can get those up first, that is going to be huge. So I'm going to lead off with Toxapex, as he is actually going to lead off with Tapu Fini. As this is an interesting spot. Like, he could taunt me, which is a pretty obvious play. He could Nature's Madness me, but I actually really love using Whirlpool, Taunt, Nature's Madness, Moonblast, Finny on the on the in standard play as a way of removing Toxapex for stuff like Ash Greninja to put in the work, or like Pheromosa or something. And I did feel as though like it was definitely worth scouting for. Like, there's no reason for me to lose such an important like wall to his team. If he is a Whirlpool Taunt variant, he can literally just 1v1 my Toxapex. So I'm going to make the switch out to my Shaman just to scout, as he does go for the Nature's Madness. So this kind of tells me that he's more than likely defog Finny, as he wasn't really fearing me setting up my T-Spikes. He wanted to get Nature's Madness damage off first to put me like in range of attacks on his team, so that was important to know. But I'm going to go into my Shaman, and he shouldn't really stay in here. Like, he's probably faster than my Shaman, but he doesn't know if I'm like a offensive lefties variant, so he can't really risk it. I am just going to go for the Synthesis up here, as he does go out into his Scizor. So I get a pretty free switch out into my Toxapex here. Like, chances are he'll U-turn, but he's going to be taking the chip. The regen is obviously going to heal back that 9% damage. That damage reveals that he is a bulky Scizor. He's a pretty bulky Scizor, so that's good, valuable information to know. He's going to go into his Zygarde here on the U-turn and make a nice double out to his Volcarona as I switch out to my Shaman. So I'm in a position where, because of the way I've constructed my team, I don't need to really make flashy doubles. Like, I can predict. Like, I don't have to make bold predictions at this point in the match. I can switch into my safe switch-ins. That's just the way I've constructed the team. He makes the double out to Volcarona. I have Gudra in the back, so I can just switch out to Gudra. Not fearing too much from this Volcarona, as his Flamethrower does 7%. So that's an uninvested Volcarona. That's 135 base attack. Let that sink in. That's even uninvested. That's that's heaps. That's a shitload of its special attack. Gudra took 7. So yeah, the thing is fat as fuck. So in comes Tapu Fini as he takes the Earthquake. I just went for Earthquake there in case he wanted to switch out into T-Tar. You know, if he was like Bantar, I got pretty nice damage off, putting him in range of Muck Punch with the Earthquake there. If he wanted to go into something like Zygarde on my rock move, I would have got more damage off. And that Earthquake damage tells me that he's not very defensive on his Tapu Fini. He's more likely like a lot of HP and fast, so or like offensive, so this is good to know. I'm going to go into my Shaman as he Nature's Madnesses once more. I take this as the opportunity to just synthesis up, predicting his switch out, because if I do Seed Flare here, he's going to be in some trouble. But Sebastian makes the great play of taunting, so very aggressive play that really worked out from there. I'm getting leftovers back, but Shaman is still at a range of health where it's not going to want to switch into an Outrage from Zygarde, so this is obviously troublesome for my Shaman, but I am just going to fire up a Sleep Flare here. I could not risk him going for like an Ice Beam on my switch out, or just continuing to Nature's Madness. I needed to pressure out his Tapu Fini there, and again, I don't have to play too aggressively versus his team at this point in time. So I'm going to go for the Seed Flare. I get the drop on his Volcarona, but it's not going to matter. I'm rocking HP Ice and Leech Seed on this set, so I'm not going to stay in anyway versus this Volcarona, as I can just switch out back into my Gudra as he goes for Flamethrower once more and does 6%. So Gudra putting in the work. This thing is getting a bit chipped, but I do have Wish support from Guard in the back if I need to, pass Wishes into it. So he's going to switch out into his Tyranitar, and I know he's going to switch out this turn. I don't really have a reason to stay in with Volcarona, and if he does quiver up on my switch out on my double, then I can just switch back into Gudra. Like I don't lose much from that play. As he is going to switch in his Tyranitar on my double out to Toxapex. So this is nice. If he's Bantar, I'll be able to scout damage, and I can just get up my T-Spikes here as he brings in his Fini. So this is important. This kind of tells me that he wants to get his Fini in before T-Spikes, and he's more than likely a Defog set. So I can just switch out, go out into my Gardevoir, who I know creeps this fast Tapu Fini, as he does just go for the Defog, getting rid of the T-Spikes. So that's a bit lame. Like, now I know that if I want to get T-Spikes up, I'm going to have to do it once this Fini is removed, or I may not even be able to get a chance to do it at all. Like, if I can get it up before the Fini can come in, that'll be really nice. Like, maybe on like a Banded, maybe on like a Zygarde's Outrage, if he's choice locked, I can switch in Toxapex, get a T-Spike up before Fini can come in, but it's not looking too good for my T-Spike strategy, but that's okay, because we have other ways of wearing down his team. So my Guard's going to come in here, as he's going to make the switch out to his Volcarona, revealing this to be perhaps like a switch into Gardevoir. He does have Scizor, of course, but I could have HP Fire, and he doesn't want to risk that, as Volcarona is going to take a decent chunk from the Hyper Voice. Nice 25%. That's a nice chip. This is going to force him to roost, as I do get the Wish up in the air. So this is really nice. I can go for the Psyshock here, scouting his damage, so that reveals that he's definitely a max defensive set on his Volcarona. Almost max defense. He could be like timid with like max defense, but he's definitely physically defensive. So I'm going to Wish up once more. If he does want to go for the Flamethrower, I will be able to chew and start commanding up. But he chooses to roost up this turn as I Wish, and now I can pass the Wish out into my Gudra as he quivers up once more. So I can take this opportunity to just go for a Rock Slide if he wants to stay in, because he does have his boosts. He'll more than likely live a Rock Slide, but it's going to do a shitload to him, and his Flamethrower or Psychic is not going to be doing much to me at all. So he does reveal Psychic, that does 18 at +2, so Gudra is just ridiculous. Rock Slide, he has a Charty Berry, and Rock Slide does 28 damage, so that's crazy. That's a 4 times resisted, 4 times weak hit. This Volcarona is very fat, but we have popped his Charty Berry, which means Rock Slides are going to be doing a lot of damage now, so he's going to make the switch out into his Zygarde, as I just Rock Slide up once more, just in case he wanted to roost up there, maybe forgetting that Volcarona doesn't lose like a weakness to a Rock Slide on the roost, just because it is like Bug Fire. But Seb makes the good play and goes out into his Zygarde. I was very close to clicking EQ or Ice Beam, predicting I wasn't close to clicking Ice Beam, I was close to clicking EQ, predicting the Tyranitar to come in, or even doubling there, but he goes out to Zygarde. He makes the good play, as this puts a lot of pressure on my Zygarde. So I'm going to go into my Toxapex, as I did predict him to, predict my Shaman to come in on the 1,000 arrows. And the nice thing about this is, even if he had gone for 1,000 arrows, I was out of range of an Adamant Band variant, so even an Adamant Earthquake, I was out of range because I'm like max defensive. So this meant that I would have been able to scout the damage and then switch out to Shaman if he was like a banded variant, locked into Earthquake. But we get the play right as he does go for the Outrage, and this is really nice. I'm going to recover up this turn as he goes for Outrage here. I do want to keep Toxapex at a really high amount of health if I can help it. Although I do get free recovers up on the Mega Scizor, keeping this thing at a healthy range is important, because he does have Zygarde and Stoutland, who I assume to be banned or a Life Orb variant in the back. So yeah, I don't know what his Tyranitar is at this point. So keeping Toxapex healthy is essential, as he's going to make the switch out into his Tapu Fini on my T-Spikes. This is going to once again let me go out to my Gardevoir here as he defogs yet again. I can Wish Up this turn as he goes for Nature's Madness, and now I can just fire off a Hyper Voice here as Volcarona takes a big chunk from that Hyper Voice. Naturally high speed F, but God is just ridiculously strong even when uninvested. So yeah, his Volcarona is going to heal up here. Now I have shown to have Psyshock. He knows, like, I know he has Quiver Dance. I know his moveset at this point. He knows my moveset. If I go for 2 Psyshocks here, it'll take him out because he's not lefties. Depending on rolls, I could come up again and go for Psyshock. I do expect him to make the switch out into his Tyranitar here, trying to maybe he's like Scarftar or even like a Berry Lure variant, but I do expect him to make the switch out here, predicting my Psyshock onto his Volcarona. So I'm just going to fire for Hyper Voice. Even if he didn't, Hyper Voice was still doing a decent chunk to Volcarona, even if he got to +1, because you saw it neutral, he was doing 25, so it would have been doing 25 if he got to +1 anyway. So Hyper Voice was all around my best play there, as it would have dealt more damage to Mega Scizor as well if you wanted to switch that in. So Tyranitar is going to come in. It's going to take the Hyper Voice really well. So I'm at +1. I'm a guard. He's a Roselli Berry, so he has the resistance to it, but even so, that still took it really well. So nice prep on Seb's part, but we do get that read right, as Tyranitar is going to go down to the next Hyper Voice. He doesn't really have a switch in. He could switch in his Mega Scizor, but I'm assuming he doesn't want that thing to be taking damage, as it is a pretty good switch into my my Shaman. So in comes one of the biggest threats to my team in this Stoutland. So I've removed his Sandsetter, so if I can just stall out Sand turns from this Stoutland, I'm going to be in a very solid position to revenge it. So he's going to bring in a Stoutland, as I am going to go out to my Toxapex. He reveals to be banded based on that damage, so that's important knowledge to have. It's doing a shit ton to my Toxapex, like it's doing half essentially, as that Sand is going to put me in range of another. But I am going to switch out to Muck here. I had to kind of sack off Muck here. I do reveal to be Figgy Berry. I'm going to sack off Muck because it doesn't really do too much to the rest of his team. Yes, it can beat the Tapu Fini, except I have multiple ways of beating Fini. Volcarona is checked by Goodra and Guard to an extent. It loses to both his dogs, and it can't really touch Scizor. So Muck was expendable at this point. I'm going to switch out to Toxapex just to get some more Helmet Chip off on this Stoutland, putting it closer and closer in range to die to a Muck Punch from my Infernape, as he's going to take up my Muck here. So this is going to let me bring in my Shaman, and just heal up on this Stoutland. I know that I calced the rolls are between 42 and 51%, so if I can get some lower rolls, even like a mid-ish roll, I'll be able to heal up with synths and lefties more than he's dealing to me, eventually getting off a Leech Seed, putting him in a position where he has to switch out. So he's going to get 50 on the first roll, as his next hit is going to do 51, so he's getting near max rolls, which is unfortunate, as his return is, he gets 49. So I'm not getting any low rolls, which is kind of unfortunate, but I know that here I can click Leech Seed. He gets 47 there, which is nicer than 51, I guess. But now I can click Leech Seed, and this forces him into a spot where he has to switch out. So I can get my Shaman back to full, which is clutch. Now it can essentially check the Zygarde and the Stoutland far better, as he brings in his Volcarona on my Shaman. So I'm going to switch out to Gardevoir in case he wanted to double out to his Zygarde on my predicted Goodra. Reason being, my guard tanks a banded EQ from the range of health it's at. As I can Wish Up, I could have knocked it out with Hyper Voice there, as he does go for Nature's Madness. He misses that Nature's Madness. That's unfortunate, but realistically, he had Surf, Nature's Madness, Taunt, and Defog. After I took the Nature's Madness damage, I would have been at 44%. I was well and truly in range of a Surf, even a crit. Surf couldn't have killed me, and I could have Carmined it up the next turn to, soften the blow of the surf as well. I would have received the wish next turn, and I 1v1 the Tackle Finny, essentially. Like, his Tackle Finny can't beat me, but the miss is annoying, but it didn't, like, it literally didn't alter the outcome, because guard received the wish at the end of the turn anyway, had he stayed into attack that following turn, and my play was just click Hyper Voice, so can't mind this. So I am going to click Hyper Voice as the Scizor does come in, and it takes a decent chunk from the Hyper Voice. Guard returns back to full as he reveals Pursuit on his bulky Scizor, which is interesting. So this is a nice way of wearing down my guard. It's gonna, if he gets a few pursuits off, I can be in range of Surf from Tackle Finny, so that's good to know. Toxapex is going to be able to set up the T-Spikes here, as I can switch back out into my Gardevoir here, as he does go for Defog, and now I can just wish up once more. I'm kind of baiting him to go for the Pursuit consistently here. I do switch out, go out into my Infernape this turn, so this is really nice. I can now get up my Stealth Rocks here. He can't really risk switching in his Zygarde, in my opinion, because it will die to Fleblitz plus Mach Punch. His whole team dies to 2 Fleblitzes, but he's, apart from obviously Tackle Finny, so his Tackle Finny is like his best switch in at this point, so I'm just going to go for my Rocks. This basically means that I can, if he wants to stay in here, if he doesn't scout for Z Poison or Gunk Shot, I can get a kill here with Infernape, because he has revealed to be a fast, non-defensive Tackle Finny. He's got the lefties we saw earlier, so Infernape is free to just knock him out here with a Gunk Shot, ensuring Rocks are up for the rest of the game, and this is crucial. This means Volcarona is essentially checked, although Guja already checked it nicely, but it's going to put nice pressure on his dogs, who are going to switch in and take 6 and 12% respectively from Rocks each turn. I'm just going to go back a turn here, I think. Yeah, so I'm in with Infernape as he brings out his Zydog, as he's going to make the switch out to Volcarona on my predicted switch out to Shaman. Nice play on his part. But again, I can just go out to my switch in, which is Goodra. He's going to roost up with his Volcarona and then switch out to his Stoutland on my Flamethrower. I Flamethrower here just in case he wanted to switch into his Mega Scizor, predicting my Earthquake or Rock Slide. He would have been able to take both with ease, and depending on his speed, he could have outsped my Goodra, got a U-turn out or something like that. But he's in a really tough spot here, because Goodra obviously checks a Volcarona now. I have checked this Scizor, and everything's kind of in range. Like both his offensive mons are in range of Mach Punch now. So Toxapex, Zydog I think is in range. Zydog is in range now because I'm like max attack, as Toxapex is just going to switch out here, just wanting to preserve health just in case he goes for Outrage, which he does. You know, Toxapex is my guaranteed way of beating the Scizor, so no reason to switch it out. I do have Infernape in the back, so I have a couple of ways, but yeah, he's going to go for Outrage here, as I'm going to take this opportunity just to kill off the Zygarde with Hidden Power Ice. I could have prolonged this game a bit by going out to Gardevoir, clicking Hyper Voice, and getting a kill, basically, or forcing it in the Scizor and then going out to Toxapex. But the way I see it, like, if I prolong this game, there's no point, like says my boy, like, I don't want to be a douchebag and like prolong this. If also if I do, he can potentially crit me late game with Zygarde. I feel this is a perfect opportunity to just remove the biggest threat to my team at this point and clean up the end game with Infernape. So he's going to go into his Mega Scizor and net himself one last kill with Pursuit, as this is going to bring in my Infernape to just wrap up this game with Flare Blitz. So yeah, definitely a fun game up against my boy. He brought a really threatening team. Double Dogs was huge pressure versus my defensive core. So yeah, really clever building by Seb. Definitely go check out his side of the match. I'm going to be leaving it in the link below. His channel, obviously, I know his battle should be going up. We should be trying to sync our matches up at the same time. So yeah, go and check out his perspective. Obviously, congrats to my man for the amazing season. We were both in the same division, and he had a really solid season. So like, he's just improving like crazy each season. Like, this man is like his second draft league, and he's in playoffs in the NPL. So like, that's just really impressive. So yeah, props to my man. Definitely a fun game. Hopefully next season we won't be in the same division, because we're always in the same division, and I don't really like playing my close friends. It's just not really something I enjoy. But because, once one has to lose, and it's just not doesn't feel good. But yeah, that's just that's just how it's been for the last couple of seasons. But maybe next season we'll get lucky and be in separate divisions or something. But yeah, go check out Seb. Next, I don't know if you guys have seen the. You should have seen because my upload is late. But spoilers if you haven't watched the other playoff games. But for round 2 we face up against Aberforth, so that should be a fun one. Definitely, he's got a crazy threatening team. So we played him in earlier on, late in the season, like week 11, and yeah, so it'll be fun to face him again. No doubt he'll be bringing the pain. He's got a really scary team, so yeah, get hyped for that. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a like and let me know what you thought of the match and the regular season in the comments. I know it's been a kind of whack season. Hasn't really been like we've lost 3 games to crits. We got 6-0 by Majerna, which was a legit loss. That was just a very difficult game for us to prep for, and Matty played it fantastically. And then we lost to Togue in a game in week 1, which was very well played by Togavor. Some unfortunate hacks in the game, but nonetheless, Togue deserved the win. So we've had a pretty interesting season. Like obviously the 3 losses to crits, Zazo, Trev, and Seb in week 12. Definitely unfortunate. Obviously a bit. It's just, I mean, losing to crits suck, but that's just part of the game. So yeah, we'll see how we go with playoffs. But definitely this team that I've had this season is not something. It's definitely not my favorite. It's not something I felt comfortable with. It's something that's become apparent as the weeks have progressed. And that's definitely something I've learned from. I know in the ITL, for example, I'm far more comfortable with my draft. It's more my style. But I still like this draft. I'm still going to give it a clean go and see if we can get to finals again and get our 2nd championship back to back. So we'll see about that. But hope you guys enjoyed. Carried on there for a bit at the end. But if you did enjoy, yeah, leave a like and let me know what you thought in the comments. I always like hearing what you guys, your perspective and stuff on the game and the team and all that. So yeah, hope to hear from you guys, and I'll catch you guys next time.